Hello everyone, we are Team 5.2 and we are the revenue management team of the Seven Seas Hotel. The team is composed by myself, Mark Rosso, and
Davide Salomoni, Dylan Nguyen,
Nicola Signorel, and this is Paulina.
Now that we have introduced ourselves, we're going to have a look at the overall performance of the last 12 months, along with our analysis and findings. We'll also provide you with recommendations for future months of operations at the end of this video. Let's begin with a quick description of the background and characteristics of our hotel. The Seven Seas Hotel is a 4-star business hotel with a perfect waterfront location in the center of the city. It is a 250-room hotel, out of which 50 rooms are premium and 200 are standard. The property features a 125-seat restaurant, 50-seat bar, and a 200-seat meeting space. At the beginning of the year, facilities and services included guest parking, room service, laundry, and dry cleaning, with a 24/7 access. In the first month of operation, we had a very low occupancy of 56.41%. We therefore did not focus on specific target market, since our primary goal was to drive the occupancy up in the short and the medium run. This is why we decided on going for an aggressive low-price strategy, trying to attract the highest market share of guests. This being said, we bid $65 per room night for the fake news group in February. This group gave us an additional 1,600 room nights for March, which increased our occupancy to 60.41%. However, taking this group at such a low rate was not the right decision, as we displaced more profitable transient guests, losing $7 on the Go bar at the previous month. For future RFP bids, we therefore decided not to go too low on the room night prices, just to underbid our competitors. At the initial stage of simulation, we conducted several investments in the area of facilities in order to increase quality and friendliness of the hotel, to eventually address market segments other than the business guests. Namely, we invested in a business center, retail shop, and travel and tour desk. At a later point in time, we also invested in a lobby kiosk in April. However, our budget did not allow us to carry our further investments in facilities until December, as our available funds were spent. At the end of the year, we were then able to invest in turn-down service and music entertainment system for our guest rooms. We also invested into services such as concierge, express check-in, check-out, and foreign exchange. In order to make sure that the reputation and rating of the hotel was kept high, we conducted regular refurbishments in all areas throughout the year.
We determined our marketing and room advertisement investments based on the proportion of the market segments. There was no logic behind investing into room advertisements for distribution channels which we did not use. As an example, for the group segment, we mainly advertised direct channels in order to expand our group business in this area. At an early stage of the simulation, we recognized that investments into marketing in general had a positive impact on occupancy. We therefore went on with managing rooms advertising in such manner. When creating the forecast for the next month of operation, we considered historical hard data for the previous year's occupancy, while using the ROH to estimate pickup. This forecast method is quite simple and worked well for us. However, we did not take into consideration influence like rooms out of order or current activities. These are reasons for which our forecast was usually deviating by 10 to 15%. This being said, a reliable forecast in the short term will help us to evaluate whether RFP will create value for future business.
Let's move on to the performance review part of this video. In terms of our pricing strategy, we initially determined the room rates according to the previous year's ADR for the different market segments and adapted it to our maximize occupancy strategy by setting rather low prices compared to the competition set. By doing this, we were able to drive the occupancy up quite effectively in the first months of the year, increasing total occupancy by about 20%. What you can also see in this graph is that there is a low variance between weekday and weekend occupancy. By the time our facility investments became operational and the refurbishments completed at the end of the first quarter, we were then facing the hotel's overall quality to be increased. We therefore had all rights to increase room rates from the beginning of the second quarter, hoping to keep occupancy levels stable or even increasing at the same time. From this point in time on, we started to operate with a competition-based pricing approach, making sure that we were still slightly cheaper than our competition. We had thought that we should stick to our low price occupancy maximizing strategy in order to progressively outperform competitors in terms of occupancy percentage. it turned out that this was not a good idea. We certainly did have a higher occupancy compared to the hotels, considering the steadily high occupancy index, here in yellow, and yearly MPI index being 109.6. But at the same time, our rates were too low compared to the rest of the competition. This being said, we had a lower GOP along each quarter, which hindered us from generating higher profits. In fact, the Seven Seas Hotel was the poorest performing hotel in terms of profit generation, here in orange. Considering that this is the main priority in the real world, we were outperformed by all other properties. For future, we would therefore clearly need to focus on generating higher profits by increasing the room rates more aggressively and reducing overall expenses and investments at the same time.
Looking back, we slightly increased the room rate from month to month, which resulted in higher ADR. For the month of March, we can clearly see that there was a $20 gap due to the group RFP that we accepted at a too low price. Our average ADR for the year is $147, while the comp set ADR is $164, resulting in an RRI of 89.1. For the last quarter of the year, we can say that the figure increased due to the higher rate we charge for room. We recommended the future Seven Seas revenue manager to further increase rates to drive up the ADR figures and catch up with the competition. If they have the possibility to apply the yield management, they should go for it, because the difficulty lies in defining the maximum room rate.
If we have a look at the revenue performance of last year, we can see that we started generating more revenue from February on, peaking in August in high season. What we can also see in this graph is that non-room revenues coming from the investment in services remained relatively stable over the years of operations, without having a significant impact on our overall revenue performance. At the same time, we kept relatively high costs in marketing and advertisement, constant refurbishments of hotel facilities and services. This is what kept us away from generating higher profits in the end. Now let's have a look at that.
The highest revenue came from the standard rate, as you can see here in orange. This is usually the case, and it is aligned with our strategy, which was to focus most of the marketing on transient. However, large group in Burgundy was a segment which brought quite a high part of the revenue. Sadly, we failed to take notice of that and did not act on it. Indeed, we should have implemented a large group strategy and developed that segment in order to maximize that possible source of revenue. Overall, the proportion of the marketing we spent against the revenue per channel was proportional. On the graph, you can see in blue for the direct, in dark orange for the GDS, in gray for OTA, and in yellow for the wholesale. We spent around 50% in direct, 20% in GDS, 20% in OTA, and 10% in wholesale for the marketing. However, the different channels would produce slightly different proportions of revenue. It was 60% for direct, 25% for GDS, 7.5% for OTA, and 7.5% for wholesale. It shows that mostly the proportion were kept except for OTA, for which the marketing was highly inefficient. If you take a look at our spending in refurbishments, you can see an evolution in strategy. We spent a great amount in all categories in February, as you can see that peak. There you can see the gap, because we did a break in our investments until May. The strategy did not really impact our ranking in the price value map, as you can see. From May on, we regularly spent in all categories in order to increase our quality. In June, most of the refurbishments started in May came to an end, and it resulted in us going from low quality to high quality. Since that moment, we were always categorized in the top 3 in terms of quality due to our constant spending in various refurbishments. However, we did not take advantage of our position of leader in the quality. We kept our prices extremely low, thus preventing us from increasing revenue.
We summarize our recommendation as follows. Firstly, we advise the future Seven Seas management team to be careful when bidding on RFP groups in order not to displace any higher paying transient guests, even if there is a low overall occupancy. Secondly, we would like to point out to be careful not to advertise on channels which you don't use. For example, if you sell your groups through direct, GDS and OTA, do not invest in marketing for groups wholesale. Allocate your marketing investment according to the percentage you distribute to the channel. Also, Be careful not to set too low prices compared to the comp set, even if you will go for a low-cost strategy. A higher occupancy won't make for the loss of revenue due to the low prices in the long term.